Good evening, Des Moines, Iowa, and the world. Welcome to the Doc and Lefty program, coming to you from the Northside Studios, webcast1live.com. You can also pick us up at docandlefty.com, the place where I submitted a blog post. It hasn't been put up for 2 weeks. That's what happens when you have your own website. Sometimes these things don't get done. But as always, this is Lefty. We're bringing you the perspectives you love from the sides you hate, and across the table, he is slick back and ready to just get absolutely owned on every topic talk about today is Dr. Patrick Petrosh. Doc, what is up?
You know, what is it with Democrats, slavery, and wanting to own people? I don't know. Anyway, if you're close enough to see this, that is what argan oil will do for your hair. It actually helped me grow some hair, thicken it up, so I don't look like my brother Joe, who, in all fairness, looks like Stannis from Game of Thrones. So
you're speaking a foreign language, man. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, hair. My brother Joe's bald. You know that.
Oh, sure.
No,
sure. Some of us
I love you, but some of us don't have that problem.
Some of us don't have that problem.
Look at that. Look at that head of hair.
I've been wearing it. I ran out of stuff to put in it, and I'm needing to get it cut. So I look like I've been told that when I leave my hair alone, I look like some hippie Christian camp counselor. Because it's so
that creepy beard kind of sets you apart, though. So you've been fondling your hair all week.
No, of course not. No, that would be weird. That would be weird. So
Dying Vinyls.
We have got so much stuff to talk about.
Speaking of hair, look at Maddie's hair.
I know.
It's down today.
I've always been an admirer of the coif that Maddie sports most of the time.
Yes, most of the time.
We have so much to talk about. We might as well just get into it.
Brexit.
Seismic political fallout in Great Britain and honestly in the wider EU. As most of you know,
Texas.
Yeah, well, Texas didn't. I mean, just got a bunch of people that are big talk, but who needs Texas, right? We'll get to that in a second. No, so last week, I think Thursday or Friday, the polls closed over in England and the wider UK. The referendum that has been talked about as if nothing else in the world was happening over there, to whether or not the United Kingdom should stay in the European Union or remain, or whether they should leave. The votes came back, I think 52 to 48%. They voted to leave. They're out. They're done. They've had enough. They're picking up their tea and their crumpets and their gin and tonics, and they're going home. They have no more interest in being a part of the EU. And I mean, this came after months and months and months of just bitter campaigning. It really got ugly near the end. There was the folks on the Remains, and this was what's fascinating about this is that when England has fights like this, it's not just a partisan thing over there. The parliamentary system is so fascinating to me because things like the Leave or the Remain or Leave campaigns can happen where Labour and Tories are on one side. You have Liberal Democrats and Tories. It's all mixed up. There's no as the partisanship is not as stark here. I think that if something like this had happened in the United States, you would have just demarcated lines, everyone would go to their camps, and then it would turn out that way.
On. There are demarcated lines. Scotland.
No. We'll definitely we'll get to that. Just kind of setting it up.
Well, I guess maybe you're saying that the Brits aren't as demarcated as what we would become. Is that what
as far as like partisanship? Because David Cameron, the conservative prime minister, well, soon to be former prime minister, conservative prime minister, was against Leave, and Leave became known as this conservative sort of nationalist movement, and so the Remain folks use that as to stoke some fear mongering. What they were accused of fear mongering. Hey, you're gonna tank the economy. You're going to make us look like bigots. All this other stuff, and the Remain side or the Leave side says, well, look at, we're not going to go to war with anybody. Come on, this is 2016. Look at all this immigration stuff we got to deal with. People are losing their jobs, and it got really, really, really bitter. And what surprised me is and at the culmination of that, at the apex of all this angry sort of back and forth, that tragedy with the MP Joe. I can't remember her last name, but who was murdered by someone who was spouting some Leave rhetoric. And somewhere they were last week when they stopped the campaign in its tracks and mourned, as is befitting a member of government who was killed in the street in front of her constituents. I kind of thought that might, change things. But even up until the polls were being counted, all of the predictors, all the betting markets, the pollsters said that Great Britain was going to stay in the European Union. Even
the guy that was leading the Leave charge said, "Well, I expect tomorrow
we're going to lose.
Yeah,
we're going to lose," and it didn't happen that way. So immediate effects. The market, I think, the market over there in the United Kingdom plummeted. There was a huge sell-off here on the Dow Jones next day when they found this out. The pound had its worst drop in decades. Scotland is calling, the Scotland nationalists, the folks that kind of called for the referendum 3 years ago to leave the United Kingdom, are calling for it again because they voted overwhelmingly to stay in the European Union. Northern Ireland wants to pull out of, or wants to get away from the United Kingdom too.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Well, it's what is astonishing is this entire thing. There's a party over there called UKIP, and this Nigel Farage, I think that's how Farage. He's the guy that's been leading this charge, and he actually came to power several years ago. There was a soldier that was beheaded by a Muslim. And this soldier was specifically targeted by this radical terrorist, and he was beheaded in the streets. And the reason I know this is it seems like every time I've landed in London, something horrific has happened. So I think I'm going to stay home and stay away from London. That seemed to give this UKIP party this tremendous boost. And ever since then, they've been, the conservatives have been trying to battle this UKIP party. I think it stands for the United Kingdom Independent Party. That's what I think it stands for. And this Nigel Farage took over about that time, and he was just like, listen, we need to get out. We can't control our borders. We're having all kinds of abuse of our system. And the truth of the matter is I think I talked about this on a previous show. The person I stayed with when I was over for the Rugby World Cup, he had bought this house from a pair of Egyptians. And he showed me pictures of this house, and I wouldn't let a rat live in this house. Anyway, this guy bought the house for £500,000. And I asked the guy, I said, well, how are these guys able to afford it? And he goes, well, they were living off our system, which gives everybody that has gone through the EU all kinds of benefits that the British have to pay for. That's one thing that the problem is. If you go to Denmark pays for its social programs, and Germany pays for its social programs, and Britain pays for its social programs. The EU doesn't, so they don't have any borders, no way to control who comes in and gets onto their social programs. And even though I'm right now currently I'm focusing specifically on Muslims, the biggest problem they have are people from Poland. If you look over there and look, there are, in some cases, 70% of a county's social budget goes to people from Poland. That's I think it was out of the Guardian or the London Times. I can't remember. But anyway, that was the statistic. So there's been a lot of resentment building towards this. Now, England, as we talked, England, Wales, there's another one, England, Wales, Northern
Ireland, and Scotland.
Scotland and Ireland. Those are the major areas. England and Wales voted overwhelmingly to stay. And Scotland voted 100%, or to leave, I meant. But Scotland voted 100% to stay.
Well, 62,
yeah, like 60, every county, 32 counties over there in Scotland, every single one of them voted to stay. There wasn't anybody. And places where they thought, oh, geez, Remain is going to win handily, barely squeak by. So if you add all this up straight across the board, it really was a whitewash for the people that wanted to remain in England and Wales. Those in Northern Ireland and Scotland wanted to stay. And part of the thing that I've heard from my friends over there is Northern Ireland and Scotland knew that England and Wales were going to vote to leave. And so that they set this up as a means to reignite this independence kick that they've both had from the greater UK. Now we've run up against a time here, and when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about the enormous fallout across the world. Every market getting dinged right in the head with the Brexit fallout. We're going to continue with that right after this break. We want to thank all of our sponsors, including you, the viewer, because without you, we couldn't do what we do. Des Moines Anesthesia at 515-574-6442, Halo Capital, Des Moines Interest Rates, Lubinas Law Firm, and, of course, Petrosian Associates, the greatest psychiatric firm ever to grace the land of Iowa. We'll be back right after this break. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.